Welcome back to the Old Photo Vault channel. The Quiet Marvel, Cedar Falls Traveling Circus, 1927. On the back of the photograph, someone had written only Wednesday matinee, as if it were an ordinary errand. The man stands straight, dressed in stripes and silk, his turban carefully pinned, his hands calm at his hips. The trick was called the living torso, and children were told not to stare too long. Inside the painted oval of his costume rests a woman's face, eyes closed, hair arranged as if for sleep. Her name, according to an old program, was Lillian Crow, a former acrobat who fell ill and never returned to the ring. After that season, the illusion was changed, but the face remained in photographs. Some said it was clever stagecraft. Others noticed that the performer, Thomas Hale, refused to be photographed again. He claimed the act felt heavier each year, as if someone inside him were finally waking up. The Laundry Room at Dusk, Mill Street Boarding House, 1912. The photograph was meant to show the new wash basin, how clean the place looked after Mrs. Adler's inspection. Stockings hang from the ceiling pipe, stiff with soap, and the clock on the mantel keeps a careful hour. Nothing appears disturbed. In the doorway to the back room, though, a shape has settled where no one remembers standing. It is pale and unfinished, as if the air itself forgot to let it leave. Mrs. Adler said the girl renting that room moved out quietly one morning, leaving her shoes beneath the bed and her dresses still damp on the line. Rent unpaid, name forgotten. In the picture, the basin seems fuller than before, the water darker. Those who study it long enough notice the figure lean slightly forward, waiting, as if listening for someone to finish their chores and come back for what was left behind. The shape between the trees. Appalachian foothills. Autumn, 1908. The photograph was taken after a successful hunt, meant to be sent home as proof of a clean day's work. 4 men pose calmly, rifles resting where their hands have always rested. The forest behind them orderly and familiar. The deer hangs from the branch, still, almost polite. It is only later that the shape beneath it draws the eye. At first it looks like a blur from the long exposure, a mistake of light. But the longer you look, the more it gathers itself. Small, hunched, arms too long, face turned slightly away, as if aware of being seen. One of the men, Elijah Moore, wrote years later that something followed them that season, chattering softly at dusk, moving low and quick like a child that never learned to stand upright. They said it wasn't an animal. It waited where the deer fell, never crossed into open ground. The Room of Many Faces, Hartford, Connecticut. Winter, 1919. The photograph was taken to catalog a collector's pride. Every frame is aligned, every portrait dusted. The piano lid closed as if company might arrive at any moment. The women in the pictures wear the same calm expressions they wore on stage and in studios, their eyes trained long ago to hold still. Mr. Alcott stood just out of view, confident that the room showed nothing more than careful taste. It is only after a while that the air seems occupied. Near the left wall, a pale figure gathers where no frame hangs, thin and vertical, borrowing the posture of the portraits around it. It does not interrupt the order so much as complete it. Alcott later wrote that the collection felt heavier at night, as if the walls were leaning inward. When the house was cleared after his death, several portraits could not be matched to any inventory. In the photograph, the empty space appears to be looking back, waiting to be named. The Study with the Third Chair, Boston, Massachusetts, 1914. The photograph was meant to mark a professional milestone. Dr. Edwin Marsh sits stiffly on the bench, hands folded, while his colleague reclines in the examination chair, relaxed and trusting. Shelves of medical books rise behind them, orderly and reassuring, and the curtains soften the afternoon light. It is a room built for reason. Only after the print was developed did the extra presence appear. Near the bookcase, a faint figure stands where no chair was placed. its outline blurred, head bowed slightly as if reading spines no one else can reach. Der Arzt Marsh insisted the room had been empty, that the door remained closed throughout the exposure. Later notes mention a former patient, Eleanor Briggs, who died during treatment years earlier, her records carefully removed. In the photograph, the men look composed, unaware. The figure, however, faces the books, not the camera, as though still searching for the explanation that was never written down. The locked compartment. North Atlantic Crossing. Night, 1936. The photograph shows a quiet passageway between cabins, polished wood glowing warmly under electric light. A bench waits for tired passengers, and the doors are properly shut as the ship's rules required after midnight. Nothing suggests trouble. It looks like a place meant for rest. Only later does the image begin to shift. In the glass of the left door, a pale face seems to form, soft and unfinished, as if breath were held just beneath the surface. Beyond the doorway, a suited figure stands rigid near the pipes, turned slightly away, caught between movement and stillness. The logbook records no one assigned to that compartment after a boilerman failed to report for duty. Sailors said the corridors stayed warm even when the rest of the deck went cold. In the photograph, the bench remains empty, but the reflection suggests someone never sat down, never left, and is still waiting for the door to open from the inside. The man who wouldn't sit still. Jackson County, Mississippi. Summer 1911. The photograph was taken after a long morning, meant to record the local hunting club in good spirits. Shirts are pressed, ties straightened, rifles balanced carefully across laps. The men look patient, practiced in stillness, waiting for the shutter to finish its work. At first, nothing seems wrong. Then the eye drifts to the man seated in the center. His face is thinner than the others, his edges uncertain, as if the light did not quite agree to hold him. His hands rest where hands should, yet they appear to belong to a different moment. According to county records, Henry Calloway was meant to be there, but he died the previous spring from a fever that took him quietly in his sleep. The men insisted the photograph was taken without incident. Still, the chair in the middle was never used again. In the image, the figure remains seated, patient as ever, refusing to excuse himself. The eyes that didn't blink. Savannah, Georgia. Late afternoon, 1903. The photograph was taken in the parlor, a room arranged for quiet afternoons and careful memory. Mrs. Whitcomb sits stiffly in the foreground, her brooch pinned straight, her expression worn but proper. Behind her, the dresser is crowded with small portraits, children, sisters, the dead remembered politely. The mirror was meant to add depth, nothing more. At first glance, the reflection seems ordinary. A younger woman appears there, smiling faintly, her posture relaxed in a way the seated woman no longer allowed herself. Family assumed it was a daughter passing behind the camera, caught by accident. But the eyes are wrong. They do not reflect the light of the room. They look forward, sharp and intent, as if aware of being preserved. Letters written later mention Mrs. Whitcomb's habit of covering mirrors at night. She said the glass had learned her face, but preferred the one she used to be, and sometimes stared too long, waiting for her to turn around. The practice frame, rural Louisiana. Morning, 1901. The photograph was taken to document a new piece of equipment, nothing more. A farmer stands beside the wooden frame, one hand resting on its side, proud of its clean construction. The field behind him is empty, the houses distant, the day already warm. It looks like an ordinary demonstration, the kind meant for instruction manuals and quiet records. Only later does the lower half of the frame begin to feel occupied. A pale shape gathers near the base, thin and vertical, as if something has already been lowered and forgotten. At first, it resembles light caught on glass, but it settles too deliberately. Local notes mention the frame was tested repeatedly before use. The blade dropped again and again to ensure precision. No accidents were recorded. In the photograph, the man's shadow stretches away from the machine. The other shadow does not. It remains directly beneath the frame, perfectly aligned, as though still waiting for the signal to fall. The one who watched them kiss. Montmartre apartment. Winter, 1952. It began as a party photograph, taken late when the room smelled of wine and damp wool coats. Two women leaned together on the sofa, eyes closed, careful and unashamed in their closeness. To the left, a third woman sits apart, elbows on her knees, face hidden in her hands, exhausted by noise or feeling. It looks like a private moment caught by accident. Only later does the space between them start to feel occupied. Behind the sofa, a pale figure rises from the wallpaper, half-formed, its face sharp in a way the others are not. It watches the kiss with an expression too focused to be envy, too still to be curiosity. Friends said the apartment once belonged to a young lodger who died suddenly, leaving no letters, only a reputation for standing too close when people laughed. In the photograph, no one reacts. The living are absorbed in each other. The figure remains upright, learning what warmth looks like and how far away it is. The little one by the curtain. Suburban living room. Christmas night, 1968. The photograph was taken while the wrapping paper was still warm from being torn. A woman in a blue dress sits on the floor, smiling to herself as she studies a new record, her legs folded carefully beneath her. The house looks settled and kind, plants watered, curtains drawn just enough to keep the cold out. It feels like a moment meant to be forgotten gently. Only later does the corner by the window seem too busy. Near the curtain, a small figure lifts its arms, pale and narrow, as if caught mid-celebration. It looks almost playful, the way children lean into games adults no longer notice. The woman never mentioned anyone standing there, and no one recalls a child in the room that night. Years later, she said she sometimes felt watched during quiet holidays, not with fear, but with expectation. In the photograph, the figure's smile is faint, unfinished, like someone waiting to be invited back into the warmth. The Fifth Hand, Eastern Front Supply Yard, Spring, 1944. The photograph was taken during a pause between tasks, when the truck had finally stopped and the women allowed themselves to stand close. Their coats are heavy, their hair pinned back with care that feels habitual now. One of them smiles sideways, another listens, the moment ordinary enough to be worth keeping. It looks like relief. Only later does the space between them refuse to stay empty. A faint figure gathers there, narrow and unfinished, its arm lifting as if to join the conversation. The hand rests against a sleeve that never felt it. At first, it seems like a blur from movement, but the blur has intention, fingers shaped carefully, almost politely. Records show 5 women assigned to that vehicle. Only 4 returned from the run. No one remembered when the count changed. In the photograph, the women lean together for warmth, unaware that someone else is still reaching for it, careful not to interrupt, afraid of being noticed again. The long walk home, outside Oran, Algeria. Dusk, 1943. The photograph shows a woman returning from her shift. Boots dusty, sleeves rolled, a bundle of cloth looped over her arm. Smoke rises behind her in a steady column, distant enough to feel almost unreal. She lifts one hand, half in greeting, half in explanation, as if apologizing for being late. It is an ordinary gesture, familiar to anyone who has walked a long road at the end of a day. Only later does her lower half begin to trouble the eye. From the knees down, her shape thins and fades, blending into the road as though the ground were slowly taking her back. The shadow at her feet is darker than it should be, heavier, fixed in place. Letters from her unit mention she never arrived at camp that evening, though no one remembered seeing her turn back. In the photograph, She is still moving forward, careful and determined, walking with the part of herself that refuses to disappear, the one that learned the trees. Black Hills Forest. Late summer, 2009. The photograph was taken on an ordinary hike, the kind meant to prove how quiet the woods had been. Sunlight filters through the pines, dusting the ground with pale gold, and nothing looks disturbed. It feels like a place that keeps its own time. At first, the shape near the tree seems like bark pulled loose, a trick of shadow where branches cross. Then the outline gathers itself. Too tall, too narrow, pressed close to the trunk as if practicing how to belong there. Its surface looks borrowed from the forest, rough and unfinished, blending where it touches the wood. The photographer said he didn't see anything while standing there, only later, at home, when the image refused to stay still. He remembered the woods going quiet all at once, birds stopping mid-call. In the photograph, the figure does not advance. It only leans, patient, learning the exact posture of a tree that has learned how to watch back. The space between the laughter. Lakeside Meadow, Bavaria. Summer, 1941. The photograph was taken during a pause in the heat, when shoes were slipped off and the grass felt cool enough to trust. Two women sit close to the water, one smiling with her cap tilted just so, the other leaning back, sun-warmed and impatient with the camera. Behind them, the lake lies flat and obedient, a white sail drifting far enough away to feel harmless. Only later does the space between the trees begin to feel occupied. A faint figure stands just behind the women, thin as a reflection left out too long, its outline stitched from shadow and light. It does not interrupt the scene. It seems content to remain where laughter has just passed. Letters from that summer speak of picnics and brief freedoms, of afternoons borrowed from worry. In the photograph, the women sit unaware, while the figure watches the water instead of them, as if remembering when it once sat down, believing the day would last. The one at the edge of the room, Community Hall, Ohio, autumn 1967. The photograph was taken during a weekly meeting, the kind meant to encourage listening and patience. Chairs are pulled close, knees angled politely, hands folded over notebooks and purses. The girls look attentive in the practiced way they were taught, waiting for the talk to end so the evening could move on. Nothing appears out of place. It takes time for the right edge to feel unsettled. The girl seated there is slightly apart, her posture too straight, her gaze not quite aligned with the others. While the rest look toward the center of the room, she seems to look past it, as if following a thought no one else can hear. Her expression is calm, but unfinished, like a face remembered incorrectly. Attendance lists from that year name everyone in the room, except her. In the photograph, she remains at the margin, present but uncounted, holding her place as though she arrived early and never learned when to leave. The figures that passed each other. Riverside Orchard, late evening, 1982. The photograph was taken during a quiet walk, meant to capture how the trees bent together like an old habit. Leaves lay flat on the ground, damp and orderly, and the path was empty enough to feel safe. The air had that thin smell of cold grass and water nearby. Nothing suggested company. Only after the picture was developed did the movement appear. Two pale forms crossed the path, blurred as if mid-step, their shapes barely agreeing on how tall they are. One seems to be going forward, the other back, neither slowing, neither turning its head. They overlap without touching, like strangers who know exactly where not to look. The photographer said no one passed him that night. He remembered stopping because the orchard felt briefly crowded, then normal again. In the photograph, the figures continue on, forever missing each other by inches, repeating a meeting that was never meant to last long enough to be remembered. The woman in the doorframe. Roadside Hotel, Eastern Europe. Winter, 1996. The photograph was taken to remember a night that felt soft and temporary. The room is narrow and warm. Wallpaper faded to a gentle pattern. The bed neatly made by someone paid to forget. A young woman sits cross-legged on the sheets, robe slipping at the shoulder, looking into the camera with a patience that suggests she is waiting for something to happen. At first, the background seems empty. Then the doorway begins to feel occupied. A pale face hovers there, barely shaped, its eyes too steady for a reflection, its mouth resting in a line that suggests recognition. It stands where the hall light should spill in, blocking nothing, claiming no space. The woman later said she slept badly that night, dreaming of someone watching without wanting anything. In the photograph, she leans forward, alive and present, while the figure remains behind her, perfectly still, as if it has already stayed once and learned how to wait again. The face in the holiday dress. Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Christmas Eve, 1962. The photograph was taken after supper, when the house had gone quiet and the tree lights were left on a little longer than usual. The old woman stands straight beside the sofa, hands at her sides, wearing the dress she saved for church and special days. The flocked tree looks almost blue in the flash, its ornaments heavy and still. It is meant to be a simple keepsake. It takes time to notice what the dress is holding. Near the hem, a pale face appears where the fabric should fall flat, eyes open, mouth resting in a careful line. At first, it seems like a shadow from the tree or a trick of the pattern, but the face does not follow the folds. It looks outward. Family letters say her youngest daughter died decades earlier, just before Christmas, her clothes packed away and never worn again. In the photograph, the woman stands patiently, while something familiar peers through her, waiting to be remembered before the lights are turned off. Some say these are only tricks of light, accidents of old film and fading memory. Others feel something else lingering, quietly refusing to be forgotten. Look again at the image. What do you see? A shadow, a coincidence, or someone still waiting to be noticed? If you felt it too, leave a comment and tell us what caught your eye. Like the video if these hidden moments unsettled you, and subscribe for more photographs where the past may not be as empty as it seems.